Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason. And y'all know what? 2024 is right around the corner, and as the world rings in yet another trip around the sun, the California cannabis industry's adult use market will also be celebrating its sixth year of operating. In the midst of tough economic times, the Golden State weed industry is up against an emboldened criminal syndicate, and law enforcement's been largely ineffective against persistent illegal operators. Will the world's largest adult use cannabis industry ever learn how to kill off the illicit players and replace them with thriving legal businesses? Several SoCal industry insiders gave Green Market Report their takes this week, and the outlook is not so pretty. Per the article, thousands of unlicensed storefronts and delivery services have been kept alive by high state and local taxes that make it impossible for legal retailers to compete on price points. It's led to many multi state operators and brands exiting the multi billion-dollar market despite its enormous number of consumers and driven much the contraction that has been happening for months. And many are saying that the future of viability of California's legal market is at stake. Jared Kylo, owner of the Higher Path Dispensary and president of the United Cannabis Business Association, says he does not think anything's changed since 2028's launch, and if anything, it's gotten worse. Even if the illicit market hasn't really grown per se, it's gained confidence and become more organized due to the lack of enforcement or serious criminal penalties. They've become more efficient, and with that efficiency, they've become a little bit harder to find and they've gone into different areas. It's not all weed maps anymore. They're not that dumb anymore, Kylo said. Uh, he also said local and state agents have been inefficient in shuttering illicit operators for good. While they may change locations and tactics, those operators are still broadly active and sucking market share from people trying to play by the rules. A new state law allows agents to levy civil fines of up to $30,000 a day against anyone found operating without proper permits, but enforcement has been scarce. The director of California Department Tax and Fee Administration, Nicholas Maduros, told Kylo and others that he's hesitant to put his staff at possible risk of assault from illicit operators. Recanting the conversation, Kylo says Maduros told him that they didn't have Kevlar pocket protectors. And he said that shit. And concerned for their own safety. Kylo's response, what about ours? We're trying to survive. What's that? What's the encouragement to actually run a license operation versus obviously the incentives to not do it? Well put, Jared. And you know what? I don't have an answer for that either. And apparently, the state of California does not have anything to say in backlash to this. They just put out more tax dollars into no enforcement. And much has come and gone in California industry over the last 5 years. Regulators have been cycled out, some on their own terms, others not so much. The legal business landscape's evolved. Many big named first movers have tapped out. Others teamed up with rivals to survive or got rolled up into larger entities. When it comes to wellness, we've witnessed the meteoric rise of lesser regulated CBD and hemp industries. Psychedelics gained public favor and heard much less about cannabis as medicine, unfortunately. In the lifestyle lane, still the heart and soul of everything that we do, but so much has changed. The event scene's completely unrecognizable, along with what it means to be a cannabis influencer these days. But of course, how consumption is generally perceived and performed by insiders and the public, night and day, comparing 2017 to 2023. In lieu of all that change, one facet of the California games rolled with the punches, adjusted appropriately, and remains generally unscathed. We've said it from the jump, continue to say it over the last few years of reading these headlines, and I'll say it again today. The trap is immortal. It's a product of the people and will always serve the people because regulated markets fail to provide equal access on both sides of the game, that is. It's an inconvenient reality, but indeed the reality we all live in. Capitalism will win out at the end. And whatever that looks like another 5 years from now, who knows? But I'm pretty sure the trap will still be alive and kicking. The regulators and legislators are the ones who gave the illicit operators their current leverage. It's on them to restore balance. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High Nine News. Interested in hearing y'all's thoughts on the California market's first 5 years and predictions for the near and distant future. What do y'all think?
Man, it's been
Metaphor is circling the drain. From the minute this got started, anybody that wanted to get in the industry was looked at as a target to pick their pockets because, of course, they were making all this money. And if you give these regulators an opportunity, they'll regulate the shit out of everything, make
Facts.
it where
yeah.
you can't operate. So the only
Everybody
way you're going to beat the trap is in the marketplace. And right now, the marketplace that's legal can't compete with the trap, and the cops are getting paid to go after them. So
everybody should have been listening to Warren G.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mount up.
they don't want to
Regulators
listen.
mount up. Exactly. They're gonna come in and come start taxing. Exactly.
Oh,
I totally agree with you, Dale. It's been a downhill spiral ever since the start, and everyone had such high hopes for the industry overall and all of the possibilities that it would bring to instill economic growth in underserved communities and the whole hopes and promises of social equity, better known as socialist equity, have just been an utter failure. And these regulators don't do anything at all whatsoever to try to fix the problem. All they do is set policies in place to only prolong the inevitable.
Well, from the jump, the people that were regulating this didn't like marijuana. I
Nope.
mean, they didn't go looking for cannabis-friendly people to be involved. Lori
Nope.
Ajax, I mean, she's a nice lady, but she came from the alcohol industry, and they just didn't trust our industry. They thought we were the bootleggers, and they still think of all of
You
us
know,
that way.
you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, Dale, because I had a conversation with a DCC agent at the very beginning of all of this, and I was asking them where they came from, like how they do this, da 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 da. And she was former law enforcement, and she said that she got into it because she wanted to come in and bust illegal grows, and that's why she joined the DCC.
Well, what the people of California did was say, fuck all you guys. We're going to make growing weed a misdemeanor soaking wet. Deal with that. So now the downside for people who grow weed illegally is you're looking at a misdemeanor soaking wet, unless they find some other environmental problems. So law enforcement's all pissed off that we can't threaten them with a felony anymore. And those of us who were threatened with felonies are like, fuck you. You don't need that gun
Mm-hmm.
to anybody's head.
Yep.
Figure this
Yep.
out from a policy standpoint. And no one wants to do it. They all want tax money. They all want to keep telling you what you have to do. And the trap's like, fuck that. I'll throw 50 pounds in a trunk and move it and sell it tomorrow.
Exactly.
Stuff the money in my pocket. Fuck all you guys.
Right.
Yep. I'm
There's
most
the problem.
surprised, Dale. I'm most surprised at these other states taking the same path. Like New York, I'm looking at y'all, looking at y'all, looking at you, James of Flatbush. I'm looking at
Yeah.
these New Yorkers, man. Like y'all saw how we fumbled that that shit, and you did the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
same thing.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
Like just,
I think New York actually fumbled it better than us, because their trap
okay,
market is oh my god, is so flourishing, and it's like every
it's in the
single
open.
door of every single business on every single street. It's which is
Yeah,
like,
it's out in the open.
yeah,
Like
it's like
crazy.
out here it was out in the open and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you drive a mile, you see a weed store. You know what I mean? You drive another couple miles, you see a weed store. But New
Yeah,
York, you just walk from one storefront to one storefront, and you have a whole selection of flower to choose from.
right. Yeah, out here they at least try to conceal it. You don't see how extravagant their offerings are until you walk into the
Mm-hmm.
joints in New York. That shit's
Well,
out
I
in the
think
open, man. Crazy.
the problem is still the mindset of the people who don't want to legalize this, but were forced to by popular demand.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, we had to pass an initiative in California because the cops just would not do it. I mean, the problems we had after 215 passed, when the cops lost their mind, that all of a sudden we can defend ourselves in court, to the point where we are now, that if you go into a state and say, oh, we want to open cannabis, who shows up? Regulators that don't like weed, the cops show up. The people who want to make it legal don't have the inside influence in these policymakers to get what we need in an industry to work. So the cops are just stupid. They'll continue to do the same thing over again. It's the definition of insanity. And they think we're going to get a better result. Give us more money or resources, we'll fix the problem. No, you can't. People want to smoke weed. That's the problem. The average person doesn't think weed is dangerous for you. Nothing compared to alcohol and tobacco. So they tell you, go sit down and fuck yourself because we don't buy your propaganda anymore. And the cops want to keep doing the same thing. It really is crazy. And trying to talk to policymakers, you can just feel their butts pucker up when you point out to them, you guys do not want to address this from how you're going to win, which is from economics. Give everybody who wants to do this a license, watch them, let this stuff be not unregulated, but regulated a lot less. Nobody really gives a shit out there whether you have a COA attached to every nug they're going to buy. They're buying it in the trap. Nobody's coming in with a
Yeah,
COA.
no one cares.
All this shit they're
I
doing
agree
is
with
nuts.
that. No one cares. So Dale, you're saying that you can see their butt quiver. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, you look for the countenance on their face
You can
as
feel
you're
it. You can
talking to
feel
them,
it.
and you can just see that
You can just
their
watch.
butts
You can just
snap and set like a cigar cutter. What? Oh my God, we're the problem. Yeah, you're the fucking problem because you don't recognize economics. It's incredible to watch
Oh
their
man.
faces,
Oh
guys.
boy. Oh,
Yep.
oh man. It's just yes, that's right. When the
See, I
reality
used to
hits.
represent cops, so I can sit down with the cops and tell them, "Look, I know what the hell you guys do in your back rooms. Stop this. Stop making these policies." But someone's funding them. Someone's paying them. You got to
Yeah.
follow the money here. Who's paying these cops to go out and keep doing this?
I think you hit the nail right on the head with your first comment there, Dale. When you put people in charge of an industry that are either A, diametrically opposed to everything in that industry, or B, have never run a business in that industry, you're doomed to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like I love like a lot of the our past regulators. Cat Packer's a close friend of mine too, but she had never run a cannabis business, and they just threw her into the fire and made her run all of Los Angeles and made her a public enemy number one for everybody because she couldn't please any or everybody, and she just didn't have
Yeah.
past business experience in cannabis,
That position
right?
was
And then Lori,
destined to
Lori
fail.
Ajax from the alcohol
Well,
industry,
well,
like.
hold on. They didn't even give her proper resources at the same time too, so we can't
No,
blame it
well,
all
she had
on
like 6
Cat.
people on her team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She didn't even have proper
Yeah.
resources. She didn't have the proper budget to really do that in
She was a
in
scapegoat.
somewhere like LA. Exactly. She ended up being a poster child for failure, and it's sad
It was
that
the
LA did that.
sacrificial lamb.
Yeah,
Come on.
100%.
Can't do this down there. Everybody's fighting each other to get into the middle of this, and their political interests are just not in line with everybody else's. And there's so many problems in LA. I mean, the whole mess out here is that we did not start off with people who were friendly to the cannabis industry looking for ways to make it work. They just didn't enforce for a couple years. But when they did start to enforce, it's like they're going to try to enforce their way through this. You can't do it. This is not an enforcement problem, it's an economic problem. Until you get to the heart of the economics of this, enforcement's your only tool. And it's never going to work. It's whack-a-mole.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Facts. And we're gonna keep this train rolling